scary story.
A small town tucked away deep within the forest lived its slow, measured life. Narrow streets, old five-story buildings, a few cars on the road. Everything felt familiar and calm, unchanged for decades. "Look, guys, there's another one," said red-haired Josh, pointing toward the checkpoint by the bridge over the river, where a small convoy of military trucks was rolling in. "That's like 5 a day now." Alex and Chris didn't react. The sight of the once-abandoned military base coming back to life no longer surprised the locals. A few months earlier, right after the spring thaw, the town was abuzz with talk about the sudden surge of trucks and helicopters heading behind the tall perimeter fence. But now everyone just took it for granted. "So what?" Alex replied quietly, staring down at the wooden floor of the gazebo. "Oh, come on, man." Josh chugged the last of his beer and stood up from the bench. "How much time you got left? A week, tops?" "Train to Riverfields on the 21st, said Alex coldly, eyes still on the floor. "See? Even less than a week." Josh rummaged through his backpack and pulled out another bottle. "By the time you pack up and do your last-minute errands, it's gonna fly by. Don't beat yourself up. You're only 18. Your whole life's ahead of you. Tell him, Chris." The chubby blonde guy nodded, trying to tear open a bag of chips with his teeth. After a failed attempt, he gave up and ripped the package apart with his hands, spilling crumbs across the table. The crunch of chips broke the brief silence. Chris, as always, stayed slightly outside of emotionally heavy conversations, preferring to listen. "You know how many girls there are in New York?" Josh went on. "Thousands. You're athletic, decent-looking. Your parents have some cash. You'll be just fine. Emily's a knockout, yeah, but..." At the mention of her name, Alex shot him a sharp look. Josh immediately fell silent. Emily had been everything to Alex. They'd known each other since 4th grade, started dating in 9th, awkwardly, shyly, and by 10th, they had shared their first intimacy. They had a plan, the same college, the same city, the same future. Until just a week ago, when she returned from a short trip and simply said, "I'm sorry, but we can't be together anymore." Alex still didn't understand what had changed. She'd left for a week and come back. Different, cold, distant, no fights, no accusations, just the end. "Let it go, man." Josh waved it off, realizing he hit a nerve. "Let's figure out how to send you off right. Your place is empty now. Your folks are gone. We could throw one last bash for the neighborhood." "Nah," Alex shook his head. "Not in the mood." "Shame," Josh sighed. "You overthink everything. Look at Chris. Totally chill. He's staying here, gonna do remote classes and work freelance modeling." "Right, Chris?" Mouth full, Chris nodded. "Yeah, I applied to Northridge Institute of Technology. Their remote program's solid and I'll be making 3D models for games. It's cool work." "See?" Josh clapped Alex on the back. "Everyone's got a plan. I'm heading to Riverfield, you to New York. Chris stays here. Life goes on." Alex said nothing. His eyes wandered past the gazebo to where, in the orange haze of sunset, a familiar figure walked along the road. Emily. Her head was lowered as if deliberately avoiding them. Alex felt his chest tighten. He wanted to stand, to call her name, to ask, but Josh grabbed his arm gently. "Don't, man," he said quietly. "She doesn't want that. Let her go." Alex clenched his fist but stayed seated. He watched as Emily disappeared into the dusk. "All right then," Josh said with a forced grin. "How about a real guy's night?" "Heroes 3 and beer?" Chris crunched louder. "You know it," Josh said with a theatrical groan. Alex nodded, though inside the storm still raged. He couldn't understand what had happened, but one thing he knew for sure, he wasn't ready to forget. The town where they had grown up was small but cozy. Narrow streets lined with old linden trees led to the center, where Soviet-era 5-story buildings stood proudly. They weren't new but solid, with wide windows and balconies cluttered with drying laundry and potted geraniums. It was surrounded by dense forests that pressed right up to the outskirts, with the river and its steep banks acting as a natural border. It was late June, just after finals, and the air was filled with the scent of fresh greenery and blooming meadows. There was hardly any wind, and the silence was broken only by birdsong and the occasional passing voice. The sun was already sliding toward the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. The river shimmered in the fading light. Its calm surface reflected the sky above, and on the far bank, dense thickets of willow and alder formed a quiet wall of green. The military checkpoints at the bridges looked like ancient sentinels, standing watch over the town, and the base near the forest edge, long dormant, was now ablaze with activity and lights, even at night. By the way, you guys noticed how much more active they've gotten this week? Josh pointed toward the base behind the tall fence. I heard they're turning it into an airfield again, or maybe a new kind of specialized military site. As long as they don't turn this place into a lockdown zone again, Chris muttered. Nah, that was back when it was just a supply depot. What would they store there now? Nuclear or chemical weapons? Alex cut in, his tone flat. My grandpa said there are massive underground storage bunkers under the base. Fuel, strategic weapon reserves, ammo, that kind of stuff. In the 90s, they pulled the helicopters out, tore down the hangars, and stripped everything inside. And what does it matter to us anyway, huh, Alex? Josh nudged his friend with an elbow. You're out of here in a week. I'm gone by fall. Let's just relax. They strolled down the quiet streets, past buildings with open windows, where TV chatter and children's laughter drifted out. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A lazy cat stretched out in a patch of evening sun on the sidewalk. Everything around them breathed peace, but Alex felt broken inside. Emotions churned in his chest, and the beauty of the evening only made it worse. They grabbed more beer on the way and made it to Alex's apartment. Time flew by, they joked, chatted, argued over what was happening on the monitor, but Alex stayed distant. Sitting in the corner, staring at the screen, his mind was elsewhere. On Emily. His thoughts circled the same track. Why did she do it? What had he done wrong? He replayed their last days together, again and again, but found no answers. Her words, "I'm sorry, but we can't be together anymore," echoed in his mind like a curse. Night had fallen. Josh noticed how far gone Alex was and walked over. "Hey man, snap out of it. Let's hit the balcony, get some air." Alex reluctantly got up and followed. Chris, always in his own world, gestured toward the town below. "Okay, imagine this," he said, a gleam in his eye. "Zombie apocalypse. This place would be perfect for a defense base. River on 3 sides, bridges with checkpoints, and they'd never break through. Add a couple of watchtowers, patch up the walls. Boom! Survivor colony." Josh rolled his eyes. "Chris, what the hell? Zombies? How'd you even get there?" "I don't know. Just crossed my mind." "Of all things to think about right now, you picked zombies?" "What if, though?" Chris insisted. "Picture it. They're coming at us and we're up here on the balconies, picking them off one by one." "Yeah, sure," Josh laughed dryly. "And what if they're already here inside? How would they even get in?" "Well," Josh grinned, playing along, "we've got a reactivated military base, weird movements, no explanations. We're in the middle of nowhere. Sounds like the setup for a horror movie to me." Chris went quiet, a bit too quiet. Alex listened, but didn't say a word. His eyes wandered across the dark town. The windows glowed warmly. The streets lay silent. In the distance, lights flickered at the base. He couldn't help but wonder. What was going on in there? Why had all this activity suddenly started? But thoughts of Emily dragged him back. That pain was still raw. "All right, enough nonsense," Josh said, stubbing out his cigarette. "Let's head back in, chill a couple more hours, then call it." Alex nodded, though peace felt further away than ever. Suddenly, a blinding flash lit up the sky, followed by a thunderous boom that made the windows rattle in their frames. In the distance, just above the base, a fiery ball slowly dimmed, suspended in the air. "What the hell was that?" Chris whispered, eyes wide. Josh, usually so sure of himself, stood frozen. He squinted, trying to make out what was happening. "Explosion," he said finally. "Looks like it came from the base." Alex felt a chill race through his body. He immediately grabbed his phone and dialed Emily's number. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. "What's up?" Josh put a hand on his shoulder. "Is it the signal?" But Alex wasn't listening. He opened the town's group chat, and it was already blowing up with messages. Did anyone see what that was? Something exploded at the base. 2 helicopters collided in midair. Chris read the messages out loud beside him. They're saying the choppers went down inside the base. Is this real? I don't know, Josh said, but his usual confidence had vanished. Could just be an accident, but that was massive. Alex tried Emily's number again. This time it didn't even ring. No service, read the screen. Mine's out too, Chris said quietly, staring at his phone. At that moment, the power cut out. Darkness swallowed the apartment. They shut off the electricity, Josh whispered, as if afraid to break the silence. Chris let out a nervous laugh. So, zombie apocalypse for real? Shut up, Chris, Josh snapped. Alex stood there clutching his phone, his heart pounding. He didn't know what was happening, but he knew one thing for certain. Emily was still out there, alone, and he had no idea where. We need to stay here, Josh said, trying to take control of the situation. Until we figure out what's going on, we shouldn't go anywhere. But what if it's really serious, Chris asked, and panic was creeping into his voice. What if this isn't just an accident? I don't know, Josh replied again, his voice less certain now. But as long as we're here, we're safe. Probably. Alex said nothing. Safety wasn't what was on his mind, only Emily. He could feel the fear tightening around his throat, but he forced himself to stay calm. Let's go inside, he suggested. The balcony's too exposed. The others nodded, and they went back into the apartment. Chris sat on the couch, hands over his face. Josh paced the room, trying to think of a plan. Alex stood at the window, staring into the darkness. Maybe it's just a drill, Chris offered, his voice trembling. Helicopters don't crash during drills, Josh snapped. Alex shut his eyes. The fear and helplessness were closing in. But somewhere deep down, hope still flickered. Hope that Emily was alive, that he'd find her. What do we do? Chris asked, looking at them both. We wait, Josh said firmly. Until we know more, we don't take chances. Alex nodded, but in his heart he already knew. If something went wrong, he was going after her, no matter what. They sat in the dark, their only light coming from a couple of small flashlights Alex had dug out of a drawer. The only sound was the wind blowing through the open balcony door. Chris tapped his fingers nervously on the table. Josh continued pacing. Alex sat motionless, staring at the wall. How long's it been? Chris finally asked, breaking the silence. An hour, maybe 2, Josh replied without stopping. Suddenly, the street lamps outside flickered back on. The light was weak, but after the blackness, it felt blinding. Alex walked to the window and looked out. The apartment buildings remained mostly dark, except for the occasional candlelight or flickering beam from a flashlight. Somewhere far off, a soft clicking sound echoed, like the kind you'd hear during military drills at the base. Look, the lights are back, Alex said, though there was no joy in his voice. That doesn't mean anything, Josh muttered. Could be the emergency generators kicking in. Alex clenched his fists. He couldn't take it anymore. I'm going to Emily, he said suddenly, standing up. You're insane, Chris jumped up. Did you not hear the gunfire? People are shooting out there. I can't just sit here. Alex looked at them, his voice steady. She's out there, alone. What if she already left? Josh tried. Maybe she's with friends or family. No, Alex shook his head. She would have said something. Alex, think about it. Chris stepped closer, his voice shaking. It's dangerous. We don't know what's going on. We should stay here and wait for someone to come. Who? Alex snapped. The military. Cops? Rescuers? I don't hear sirens. You both have families too. My parents are in Spain, Josh said suddenly. Only my aunt's here. And honestly, I don't really want to see her. Then stay. Alex grabbed a flashlight and headed for the door. Wait, Josh sighed. I'll go with you. What? Chris looked at them in horror. You're both insane. Chris, stay here, Josh said. If anything happens, call someone. If the signal comes back. Chris just nodded silently. He looked terrified, too scared to argue. In the hallway, a door across from them cracked open. Their elderly neighbor peeked out, her face pale with fear. Her hand trembled as she held a flashlight. Where are you going? She whispered, glancing nervously down the stairwell. Stay home. Help will come. Will it? Josh asked quietly, but she shut the door before he got an answer, as if afraid something terrible might follow them down the stairs. Outside, the town was quiet, but not peacefully so. The silence felt unnatural, ominous. The streets they'd walked for years, the ones they knew down to the cracks in the pavement, now looked foreign and threatening. The lamplight was dim, casting long, quivering shadows on the asphalt like something alive. The windows, once glowing with the warmth of life, were dark and hollow. Occasionally, the flicker of a candle or phone light reminded them someone else might still be out there. The trees lining the sidewalks rustled gently, but even that sound, once so soothing, now felt sinister. The air was thick with tension, like the whole town was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. They stepped into the night. The familiar world felt gone. The roads they once ran down as kids now seemed like traps. The houses they used to visit, lifeless. Even the air, usually full of forest and river scent, now reeked of dust and something metallic. Look, Josh pointed toward the base. Headlights flickered in the distance. Movement. But instead of steady lights, the beams swung wildly, illuminating random patches of the night sky. "What the hell is that?" Alex whispered. "I don't know," Josh clenched his teeth, "but it looks like something's gone seriously wrong." Along the way, they passed a small group of people running in the opposite direction. One of them, a man in his 40s, stopped to catch his breath. "Did you see the tall shapes?" he asked, panting. They moved so fast. My friend disappeared. We were just walking past a dark alley." "What shapes?" Josh asked, but the man was already gone, sprinting to catch up with the others. A chill ran down Alex's spine. They picked up their pace. Emily's apartment was empty. The door was ajar, instantly setting off alarm bells in Alex's mind. He pushed it open. It creaked slowly on its hinges. Inside, everything was dark and silent. He stepped in, and a strange sensation overwhelmed him. It was all so familiar. The couch where they used to watch movies, the table where they did homework, the photos on the wall, snapshots of laughter of two people in love, the scent of the apartment, something he hadn't smelled in what felt like forever, hit him like a punch. Her perfume, the candles she loved, and something else, something uniquely her. His eyes stung. Now wasn't the time to cry. "Emily?" he called out softly. No answer. He entered her bedroom. Everything was untouched. The bed neatly made, books in order on the shelf, her old camera sitting on the desk. He picked it up and turned it on. Photos flashed across the screen. Him and Emily in the park, by the river, at prom. They were smiling, hugging, happy. "Where are you?" he whispered, staring at the empty room. "I'm here," Josh called from the doorway. "Alex, let's go, man. This darkness is getting to me." Alex walked out into the hallway and knocked on the neighbor's door. A voice answered cautiously. "Who is it?" "It's Alex, Emily's friend. Have you seen her?" "No, we haven't," the voice said. "Please, just go." "But leave," the voice snapped, desperate and afraid. Josh placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. "Let's go. Maybe she already left." "No," Alex shook his head. "She's here. I can feel it." Josh sighed but didn't argue. They stepped back outside. The city around them was quiet, but not in the way that felt safe. This quiet was deceptive. It hummed with something unseen, something watching. Far off, gunshots cracked again. "What now?" Josh asked. "I don't know," Alex admitted, "but I'm not giving up." They moved along the empty streets, sticking to shadows. The streetlights flickered like they were afraid to reveal too much. The air smelled of smoke drifting from the direction of the base. A new group of people hurried toward them. They looked terrified. A man in a battered jacket stopped beside them. "Have you seen the military?" he asked, breathing heavily. "No," Josh said. "What's going on?" "They're at the checkpoint by the river." The man pointed toward the bridge. "No one's getting out. They say it's a quarantine, some virus or something." "A virus?" Alex felt his pulse quicken. "Yeah," the man nodded. "They're sending people back to their homes. Said they'll organize an evacuation later. But we waited there for an hour. They didn't explain anything. One guy tried shouting at them. They shut him up fast." "What do you mean, shut him up?" Josh asked cautiously. They hit him. Rifle butt to the face. Lucky, that's all. The group continued on. Alex and Josh stood still for a moment. What now? Josh asked, looking at Alex. We go back, Alex said finally, his heart sinking under the weight of helplessness. Chris was gone when they returned to the apartment. A note lay on the table. Went to my parents, be careful. Well, that's it then, Josh said, dropping the note. Just the two of us. Alex stayed silent. Fear and frustration twisted inside him. The city was sealed, cut off, and he had no idea what to do next. Suddenly, a voice crackled from the emergency alert system. Attention! A quarantine has been declared. Stay inside. Do not leave your homes unless absolutely necessary. A dangerous virus is spreading. The military is in control of the situation. A virus? Josh looked at Alex. Do you believe that? No, Alex replied. It's not a virus. Then what is it? Josh began pacing again. What the hell is going on? I don't know, Alex admitted, but I can't just sit here. This is about Emily again? Josh turned to face him. Yes, Alex clenched his fists. She's still out there. I know it. Think about it. Josh stepped closer, his voice pleading. It's dangerous. We don't know what this is. We should stay here and wait for it to end. What if it doesn't? Alex shot back. What if this is just the beginning? You heard them. Quarantine. Virus. We can't just walk out there. I won't leave her, Alex shouted. Don't you get it? I can't just leave her. She's the one who left you, Josh yelled in return. She dumped you, out of nowhere, said goodbye and walked away. Alex said nothing. His fists trembled, ready to swing. I'm not risking my life for your delusions, Josh finished. They stood there staring each other down, angry, scared, exhausted. Then stay, Alex said quietly. I'll go alone. You're insane, Josh whispered. Maybe, Alex turned to the door, but I'm not doing nothing. Josh didn't stop him. He stood in the middle of the room, watching Alex disappear into the hallway. Alex stepped outside and the cold night air struck his face. He walked quickly, almost running, but with every step a feeling of guilt grew heavier inside him. He knew he had messed up. Josh and Chris had stood by him for a week, listened to his pain, tried to keep him afloat. Now that everything was falling apart, they were probably just as scared, if not more, and he hadn't even asked how they were holding up. He just walked away. He remembered Josh saying his parents were in Spain, and only his aunt, who couldn't stand him, was home. Alex had never even tried to understand what Josh was going through. And Chris? Quiet, calm. Chris was probably terrified, all alone in that empty apartment. Alex had left him behind, without a second thought, to chase after a girl who'd broken up with him without warning. He stopped, leaned against a wall, and clenched his fists. The guilt didn't go away. He knew he'd failed his friends, been selfish. But he couldn't stop. The thought of Emily, alone, maybe in danger, haunted him. I'm sorry, he whispered into the darkness. I can't do anything else. It sounded like an excuse, and maybe it was, but he couldn't stay behind and wait. Alex took a deep breath and kept moving forward. The guilt stayed with him, but it mixed now with determination. He knew he might never see his friends again, but he hoped they'd understand. I have to find her, he said aloud as if trying to convince himself, or the shadows, and he walked on into the dark. The town, once full of life, now felt utterly abandoned. The streetlights that had flickered earlier were now out, leaving only a few trembling pools of light. His footsteps echoed loudly on the sidewalk. Too loud in a world gone quiet. He kept glancing around, looking for signs of anyone, but there were none. Cars sat abandoned in the roads, doors left open, as if their owners had fled mid-thought. Did they get out? Alex whispered. Or, he couldn't finish the sentence. The thought was too terrible. But what scared him more? There were no bodies, no signs of a fight, no blood, no clothes scattered, no dropped phones. It was as if people had simply vanished. Alex kept walking, trying not to look too closely into alleys or behind parked cars. Every shadow felt like a threat, every building like a trap, and then a sound. Low, distant, a long, groaning moan that rose and fell like the wind. He stopped, holding his breath. It wasn't human. It didn't even sound like an animal. It was something wrong. From around a nearby corner, a figure emerged, tall, blurry. Its movements didn't match anything Alex had ever seen. It walked like it was dragging the air behind it. Its edges shimmered like it was made of smoke, or heat, or something not entirely solid. In its clawed hand, it dragged several bodies across the asphalt. They didn't make a sound. Alex's legs almost gave out. He wanted to run, but he couldn't move. The creature turned and vanished into the shadows. And only then did Alex stumble back, gasping for air. He ran. He didn't care about silence now. His legs moved on their own, carrying him forward, toward the park. And then there she was, sitting on a bench beneath the old oak tree. Emily, alone, fragile, so small in the emptiness. Alex stopped, his breath caught in his throat. "Emily?" he whispered, stepping closer. She didn't look up, not until he was just a few feet away. "Emily!" His voice trembled, full of disbelief and relief. She slowly raised her head. Tears shimmered in her eyes. "Alex?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why did you come?" "What do you mean, why?" He dropped to his knees in front of her, grabbing her hands. "You thought I'd just leave you here? It doesn't matter anymore," she looked away. "I'm not going anywhere." "Don't say that." He held her hands tighter. "Is this because of me? If I did something wrong, tell me. I'll fix it. I'll stay. I'll prove to you how much I love you." "It's not about you," she said, her voice hollow. "Then what is it?" Alex's eyes filled with tears. "You left, came back, and ended everything like none of it ever mattered. We had dreams, plans, a future." She looked at him, and the pain in her eyes made it hard to breathe. "It's not you," she said at last. "Alex, I have 1 year left, maybe less." His world stopped. "What?" he whispered. "I found out in the winter, after New Year's. Remember those headaches I had all the time? My parents took me to New York. We ran dozens of tests, but—" "There has to be something," he interrupted. "Germany or anywhere else. We'll find a clinic." "No," she cut him off. "It's too advanced. We tried everything, every opinion. Please don't make this harder." "But I have cancer," she said it quietly, calmly, like it wasn't about her. "It's inoperable. In a few months, the pain will start. I'll change. I don't want you to see that. I hoped you'd leave. Forget me." Alex's tears finally fell, but he clenched his jaw. "You thought I'd just move on?" His voice broke, but there was anger in it now. "You're everything to me, Emily. Everything. I'm not leaving you, no matter what." "You don't understand." She tried to pull away, but he held on. "I do," he said firmly. "And I'm staying." They sat in silence. "Besides," he added, managing a faint smile, "do we really have a choice anymore?" She looked at him, torn, but there was hope in her eyes now. "You really love me that much?" she asked. "Yes," he nodded, "and we're going to get through this, together." They stood, and Alex felt her hand trembling in his. They moved quickly, trying to stay quiet, but every sound seemed deafening. "We need to get to the checkpoint by the river," Alex whispered. "It might be our only way out." "And if it's not?" Emily asked, but he didn't answer. They walked through the empty streets holding on to each other. The checkpoint came into view, its lights blinking like a distant lighthouse in the dark. The bridge over the river stood like a last barrier between them and freedom, but something felt wrong. "Look," Emily said quietly, pointing. There were soldiers at the checkpoint, or at least they looked like soldiers. But their uniforms were different, gray, unmarked, nearly invisible in the night. They moved like machine, too perfect, too rehearsed. One of them was mounting a strange device, something like a cannon on wheels. Their faces were hidden behind masks. Their movements were too smooth. One of them waved them forward. "Who are they?" Emily's voice shook. "I don't know, but they're calling us," Alex said. But something deep inside told him to stop, to run. They hurried forward, and that's when Alex saw it. Movement in the shadows, from windows, from alleys, from rooftops. They emerged, silhouettes, tall, distorted, rippling with black static, like broken transmissions. They crept slowly, but with deadly intent, like darkness itself had taken form and was crawling toward them. "Run!" Alex hissed, tightening his grip on Emily's hand. They bolted, but they hadn't gone 10 steps before Emily screamed. Alex turned. Something black and massive had grabbed her leg. A grotesque arm, shaped like a gorilla's but impossibly wrong, had risen from the ground and caught her ankle. She fell, her hand slipping from his. "Alex!" she cried, terror ripping through her voice. He dove for her, grabbed her hand, and pulled with everything he had. That's when he saw it. The creature. It loomed over them. A massive shape, pulsing, flickering, like a living distortion. Its form twisted and reshaped itself in impossible ways. Inside the shifting blackness, something vaguely human shimmered, stretched, bloated, mutated. Its eyes, if they could be called that, burned with a deep red glow. Not fire, not light, but a dead, suffocating heat, like embers smoldering in a cave. It looked at Alex, and it hated him. "Hold on," he screamed, straining every muscle, legs planted, arms trembling. He pulled, but the monster's grip didn't loosen. Her foot was still trapped in its claw. Emily struggled, her face twisted in pain and panic. She looked behind Alex and froze. Another arm was rising from the darkness behind him. It reached for his head. "Alex," she said, her voice soft but filled with finality. "I love you." "No," he screamed. His heart was splitting. "Don't let go. Hold on." But she already had. Her pale face froze in front of him for one final second. Then the darkness swallowed her whole. Alex was thrown backward. He hit the ground hard, skidding on his back. He looked up in time to see the second arm closing on empty air. She was already gone. "Emily," he shouted, his voice tearing through the night. But no reply came. The last thing he saw was her hand, vanishing into the blackness of the alley. The last thing he heard was a loud crack behind him and an explosion in the dark ahead. Then came the light, blinding and sharp, like white fire ripping through his skull. Pain like 1,000 needles pierced his skin. Someone was screaming, maybe him, and then everything went black. The fluorescent light burned his eyes, waking him from the void. A low hum, steady, mechanical, buzzed in his ears like an alarm. Somewhere nearby, monitors beeped in slow, rhythmic intervals. Alex tried to sit up, but his body refused to move. Every muscle ached, heavy like lead. His head throbbed. "Don't rush it," a calm voice said nearby. A man in a white coat appeared beside him. A doctor. He flashed a pen light into Alex's eyes, nodded slightly, and scribbled something on a chart. "You were born under a lucky star," the doctor said. "Or maybe you were wearing a flak vest. Just a mild concussion and a few scratches. You're very fortunate." He closed the chart. "Someone wants to speak with you." Before Alex could respond, the doctor left, and another man entered. Tall, broad-shouldered, mid-40s, calm face, even kind, but the eyes betrayed something else: weariness, distance, control. "Your parents are on their way," the man said with a polite smile. "You'll be able to go home soon." "What happened?" Alex croaked, forcing the words through a dry throat. The man sighed and sat in a chair beside the bed. "The subject we were supposed to contain, it escaped. It had been held for a long time, but something went wrong." "Subject?" Alex narrowed his eyes. "What are you even talking about?" "It's hard to explain," the man said, leaning forward slightly. "Our research, it goes beyond conventional science, beyond what most would consider possible, and sometimes things fail." "Fail?" Alex's voice was rising. "People died. The city's destroyed. And you call that a failure?" "I understand you're angry," the man replied evenly. "But it was an accident. Accidents happen. Just not all of them make the news." "An accident?" Alex was almost shouting. "Is that what you call it? Emily's dead." At her name, the man's expression changed. Barely, but Alex noticed. "Emily?" he asked, voice suddenly sharper. "Yes, Emily." Alex's fist clenched. Is she alive?" The man exhaled through his nose, slowly. "There were no survivors," he said quietly. "At least, not in the way we understand survival." The world fell apart again. Alex couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. You could have stopped this, he finally whispered. You let it happen. We're doing everything we can, the man said, voice still calm, but cold now, distant. Terrorism happens too, but we minimize losses. Minimize? Alex spat the word like poison. Is that what you call it when a whole town is erased? The man was silent for a moment, letting the rage wash over him. You're telling me all this, Alex said, quieter now. Aren't you supposed to keep it classified or whatever? What if I tell someone? Go ahead, the man replied without hesitation. Tell whoever you want. Alex stared at him, confused. Think about it, the man said. Your story. The government is running secret experiments on monsters that wipe out cities. Sounds like a B horror movie. Best case, it vanishes into internet creepypasta. Worst case, you go viral for a couple of days, then they forget. Alex dropped his head back against the pillow. His mind was spinning. 1,000 questions, but none of them formed into words. The man stood, pulled a small card from his coat, and placed it on the bedside table. If you ever want answers, he said, call the number. We could use people like you, survivors, witnesses, people who've seen what's out there. Then he turned and left, footsteps fading down the hall. Alex stared at the ceiling. His whole body trembled. Not from pain, but from something deeper, something darker. I'll make them pay, he whispered. I swear. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just lay there, eyes wide. The memory of Emily's face burned into the inside of his skull. Her voice, her hand disappearing into the dark. He would have torn through every wall, crossed every mile to save her. But it hadn't been enough. Not yet. He swung his legs off the side of the bed, body screaming in protest. And then he saw the card on the nightstand. It read, Geospatial Research Institute for Natural Phenomena. Alex picked it up, stared at it, and didn't let go.